Okay, I think I'm good to go. Yep, I suppose so. Hello, how's it going? They blocked me in, and I couldn't leave for work today. So I spent the day kind of puttering around the house, getting things done. Went shopping a little bit with my wife, dropped off a package. I am going to have... I finally got rid of my Tau army, which, I was not super fond of. I didn't want to put any work into. They were my first army, and, to be completely honest, I tried playing them and realized I hated how they played. So, I went ahead and sold them. And, traded them. And it was, looks like I'm getting a Leagues of Votan army box, which I'm pretty excited about because I already have my Amogus crew. And there's a really high chance I'm just going to keep painting them in that style because it makes me laugh. But yeah. Not really sure what I'm going to do today. I know I'm going to work on, the Puma. I'm going to do what I can with this guy, try and make him look as good as possible. I'm kind of ready to be done with the model, if not necessarily the full diorama that I eventually want to do. But I feel like I keep putting this off, and the more I put it off, the more it makes me not want to work on it, which is a really silly problem to have. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do to work on him, on these guys, touch them up, make them look a little more Master Chiefy. And then, I don't know, if I'm not done streaming at that point, I'll find something else for me to do. I will say, I am quite happy with how they've turned out. The colors on them are a lot more vibrant than I expected them to be, after all of the work that went into getting them to that level. So it looks like I'm going to have to do some highlighting to bring the colors back up a little bit, because now it's a very clearly dark model, and it really doesn't need to be. Also going to do some touch-up where I need touch-up, because I did get a little fast and loose with the painting. So I'll go ahead and get on that. I think the first thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to go ahead and wash them. I'm going to hit them both with a red wash, with a sepia wash, to hopefully do some cheap and easy, shading. And that way I can go ahead and almost immediately after start painting in the highlights, because I think I'm going to work on some other parts of it after doing this shading, and then I'll come back. Let's see, can that go brighter? That can indeed go brighter. And then I'll go ahead and work on the other bits. So we're going to use some Seraphim Sepia, and I'm just going to hit all these spots. And I'm essentially just going to drown him in it, you know what I mean? Because I want these dark shadows to look really nice and dark and shadowy. And then I'll let that dry, let it really show up. And then I'll come back with a brighter highlight. Actually, potentially the same orange I used, if not orange mixed with a little yellow. And I can get some really good color out of that. Now, something I did do, which I'm trying to get used to, is I rearranged my desk a little bit. Since I had the morning to do practically nothing, I went ahead and cleaned it up. I moved some things out of the way. I threw some old things away. I rearranged the lights and the mic stand, and now I've got to work to get used to that crap. So I think in general this is going to work better for me, simply because it allows for better placing of my camera and whatnot. But at the same time, I think it's going to be something of a problem, because everything is so low slung, so I can get the most effect out of it, that I'm going to be hitting it a lot. Because unfortunately, I don't have incredibly powerful dispersed lights. I've got a crummy little, well, I don't want to say crummy, it's been very useful, a little studio light on an arm, and my desk lamp. And that's kind of it. And my desk lamp is on a soft rubber articulated arm that doesn't hold its place too well. And desk lamp is on an articulated arm, but to make sure it's getting good lighting, I've got to have it really close. And I will be honest, this turned out a whole lot better than I thought it was going to with this color. Not because I had any doubts or fears that it was going to be bad, I just didn't know if it was going to cover this orange as effectively as it clearly has. So bully for me, I guess. That looks fantastic. That looks really good. Especially since those are the main parts that you're going to see. Now, I wonder, but it makes sense for me, because this has been a consistent problem, is the focusing in and out. And I know for a fact it's made my video quality suffer because of it. So I'm gonna see if I can go back into Camo Studio and give it a fixed focus focal length. Nope. I really wish I could change kind of the f-stop on this, and that would allow me to keep it give it a much more loose tolerance as to where the camera's focal length was. Okay, on to Simmons, because he's going to get the exact same treatment, but given that he's more of a maroon, this might not show up as well. What I might want to do, I think, since I believe the maroon that he is actually darker, is I actually might want to go back for him and put him in like a violet. Let's see, would that actually look better? I might have to do that, because right now this ain't looking so hot. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put this away, get some of the violet shade out. Well, actually, what I think I'm going to do first is I'm going to pat him dry, get some of the wash off of him, and then look up online real quick what goes well as a shade for maroon. Because to be honest, I really can't... Uh-oh, I got some tissue paper stuck to him. I really can't see this sepia coming through. Shade color for maroon. Maroon is a shade of red. Yeah, I get that, but I know how to make it. That's not the problem. Mini painting. How to paint a color. That's burgundy. Difficult to highlighting. I don't want to highlight it. Shade it down with blue or black to keep it saturated. Okay. I don't think that's what I'm looking for, but I'll give it a shot. We're going to go with Night Haunt Bloom if that's the case. Let's see if maybe that helps. Drakenhof Nightshade. Let's see if Drakenhof Nightshade provides a better contrast to the maroon without making it too purpley. Give it a look. Oh, that definitely darkens it down. I guess if I spread it out enough, though, that will do what it needs to do. And yep, that's actually done a really good job of it. Because see, when it gets on there, it's kind of like a purpley color, but as I spread it out, and it only really hits the surface, we suddenly get much better variance in the color. And while it does definitely beat down on the color of the Mini, it does so in a way that I feel like we can tolerate. By we, I mean me, since I'm the one painting the way. Yeah, I'm not too mad at that. The burgundy, or not the burgundy, the sepia tone was definitely not working. I think this will take the cake. This will go ahead and be a useful color. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and get the entire guy, even parts that are going to get covered with another color. I'll go back and repaint those later. Right now, my main goal is to just give him a quick shade so that he very clearly has some stark shadows on him, some stark contrast. And then I'll go back later and I'll re-highlight him. Okay. Because he is a slightly cooler color than Griff is. Okay, Simmons got the red Aquila, just like Griff, because they're both on red team. Go ahead and paint up his back a little bit. So they keep releasing more and more rules for 10th edition, and I keep getting more and more excited. And that feels weird to say, because some people are not very happy with where 10th edition is going. They are not enjoying the simplicity of it, or the streamlining of it, or whatever you want to call it. I honestly like it, because I feel like one of the worst parts of 9th edition was the incredible quibbling and micromanaging of the different weapons profiles and the like. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about that before, but the big thing they released today was information on transports. Was that today? Or was that yesterday? I don't recall anymore. I think today they released more specific information on transports. One of the things that they did mention was that the drop pod now can't distinguish between, it doesn't need to discriminate between Primaris and Burstborn Marines, which I think is great. They talked about psychic abilities a day or two ago, which looked like a lot of fun. They talked about the transports themselves, and how they have things like firing, I think they were called firing lanes, and how you'll be able to shoot weapons on the transport from a limited number of troops. And I remember yesterday, most specifically yesterday, I was talking with a friend who plays orcs, and he's excited because the battle wagon does stupid things now. It used to do a thing that allowed orcs to kind of fire off of it, which was fine because it was open top, I believe. But they would use their own weapon profiles and their old weapon skill and ballistic skill and the like. And that worked fine for 9th, I guess. But the new firing lanes, the way that it works in or firing platforms, whatever it's called, the way that it's going to work for 10th edition is that the weapon counts as being equipped, or the transport counts as being equipped with said weapon. And the strength and ballistic skill and whatnot of the weapon is tied to the weapon. So, a unit doesn't have a flat ballistic skill that then takes that every weapon can take advantage of, you know what I mean? And so something you can now do is with the mech boy, you can give a transport or a vehicle +1 to hit, +1 to their ballistic skill. And that's all fine and good, but like the battle wagon, which is the thing I was most excited about with my orc playing friend, is that it's got firing lane 22, or firing platform 22. And so that means that it can fire off 22 different weapons. And since it is counting as being equipped with the weapon, when it gets the +1 to ballistic skill, that means these orcs are now hitting on 4 instead of 5, which is a huge statistical difference. So we're both very excited about doing silly dumb crap with orcs. And I'm having a hard time keeping this thing focused, so maybe I'll go back to the regular focus. Maybe that'll be fine. What's going on here? Anything? Nope, that's fine. Okay. So the next thing I think I want to do with this guy is I'm going to let all this stuff dry, and I'll dry brush back over, since he is pretty much the same color, I'll dry brush back over with the maroon. Hopefully I remember the recipe. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to hit this gun, because it needs a little more black, and then it needs itself a dry brush. So, I think when I was doing this, I was using one of the cheaper apple barrel blacks that I have, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Hey Red, how's it going? I'm doing well. I was not able to leave for work today because they are doing road work on my house, or on the road that my house is on. And they decided that they were going to pour concrete today in front of the house for the sidewalk, which is fine, but they blocked me in. And since they had a cement truck, it was one of those things where once it starts going, it kind of can't stop. And so that's exactly what happened. I was blocked in until about 1 p.m., and that meant that I basically had to call out of work because some idiot didn't go around telling, the residents that this was a thing that was happening. Which I guess is fine. I mean, I have sick days. I could definitely make it. but it was very, very annoying. How's your day going? Well, at this point, it would be your evening, right? How's your evening going? It's true. My mate told me the next edition they're getting rid of Firstborn Dreadnoughts. I have not heard of that, and I do not believe that that is true. My understanding, the last thing I heard about it was that they were getting rid of the Primaris Firstborn distinction in transports. I've never heard anything about them getting rid of Firstborn Dreadnoughts. Oh, they were talking about terrain rules today. Okay. So I don't know where your friend heard that. I hope they're wrong. And I think they're wrong. Because I've never heard anything of the sort. Everything I've heard, I mean, they are making the Redemptors have more diverse weapon profiles, so I guess they can sell 3 different types of Redemptor Dreadnought, which, you know, everyone is going to love. And the newest one that they're releasing, I mean, they just released the Brutalis Dreadnought a few months ago, which is the one that has like the melee claws and the meltas, so it's meant for close range combat. And in the trailer for 10th edition, they showed off a Dreadnought, a Redemptor Dreadnought with, like, I guess it's the assault cannon or the las cannon, I couldn't tell, and the missile pod, which, if I recall right, is pretty iconic to the original Dreadnought. But I don't think that they have it there as a way to replace the original Dreadnought. I think it's there specifically to make the Redemptor Dreadnought a little closer to what the Firstborn had in its loadout. You know what I mean? Yeah, I as far as I know, they're not getting rid of them. My last understanding of it is that they're getting rid of chapter-specific sub-factions. You know what I mean? So they're not going to have a Space Wolf sub-faction. They're not going to have an Imperial Fist sub-faction. What they're doing instead, and I'm actually kind of down for, is they're giving them I can't remember what they're called right now, but they're basically sub-factions, but they're sub-factions that aren't tied to the chapter. And some of these sub-factions are going to be very clearly meant to be played with, you know, Ultramarines or Space Wolves or Blood Angels or whatever, but any faction can play those rules. Or any Space Marine chapter can play those rules. So, I don't think they're getting rid of the Firstborn Dreadnoughts. That just seems like a bad idea for so many reasons. No one wants, especially since it's a model they still sell in plastic. There's like no point to them discontinuing it, you know? And so that's my best bet. And that's what I'm most excited about, because I don't know. My Imperial Fists have sucked long enough, and so being able, as much as I like their chapter-specific stuff, if I could play with a slightly more generic Space Marine, but, you know, still Imperial Fist look, that's fine. Yeah, no, the thing I understood was that if people wanted to experiment with other Space Marine chapters, they really couldn't, because they were tied to the color. If you were playing you know, Space Wolves, then it didn't matter what you claimed your chapter was, it was Space Wolves, right? And that led to a lot of feel-bads, so they made it so that they're not tied to the specific chapter anymore. But they've only released the one sub-faction, which is the Gladius Strike Force or something, and that one's supposed to be very clearly based on Ultramarines. So we'll see what the rest of their stuff looks like when they start releasing it, I guess. Okay, but yeah, I don't think they're getting rid of Firstborn units at all, unless they're like Forge World ones. Yeah, it would be kind of sad, because those are really cool units, and I'd be really sad to see them go. But yeah, especially since like you're playing a Space Wolves conversion army, so there's no way they're getting rid of things like Bjorn or Murderfang or anything like that. That would be weird and silly. And there's no way Murderfang is crossing the Primaris Rubicon. That would be even dumber. So, I wouldn't hold my breath on losing Firstborn Dreadnoughts. Especially since, you know, the first transport that they previewed and showed off was the Rhino. It's always the same with, I painted a Bjark and used him in 5 games, GW came along and killed him off. That sucks, and I'm sorry that that happened. At the very least, he can still be used as a Commissar. Who knows, maybe they'll keep him in the Legacy rules or something. Because it would be really silly for narratively a character to be killed off and you not be able to play him on the table. You know what I mean? Okay, I think that's good enough for the metal, so I'm going to move on to a more rusty color. I mean, that's kind of how my friend gave up on 40k. One moment. Just because he finally kind of got used to how the Adeptus Mechanicus played, and then they came out with the Balance Data Slate, which made him have to relearn half the army. And so he got frustrated with that, and then he had to relearn it. Couldn't erase permanent marker with some of the changes he made to the datasheet because they reversed them. So yeah, it's, you know, I guess you kind of got to deal with what you got to deal with. As frustrating as that can be. My hope is that Games Workshop realizes that there are a lot of people who still like the Firstborns and still want to use that stuff. I mean, I think they have to at this point, actually, because why else would they release the Terminators as just straight Terminators? No Primaris here. Even Call couldn't improve upon these sacred designs or whatever silliness that they put out as justification. Legendary means they're not going to sell it anymore, but you can still play it, except in, like, official Games Workshop tournaments. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, because I haven't had to use any Legendary units, but they're going to have a datasheet for him. Obviously, they can't tell you not to play it in casual games, but I don't know if you can play them in tournaments, and they're for models that they're not, like, actively selling anymore. You might have to look that up and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding. Get some color depth in there. So yeah. Thank goodness not getting rid of Yorick. He's way too popular. Like the 40k shitposting boards are still kind of joking about how Gazkul's gonna get it bad when or not Gazkul, Angron's gonna get bad when Gazkul finds out what happened. I'm gonna have to get rid of this Agrax Earthshade because I mixed it in with that other wash, that oil wash, and that oil wash ruined it. So I guess I'm gonna have to buy myself another bottle of Agrax freaking Earth. That's what I should have bought when I was out today. Dagnabbit. I went out shopping and I bought myself some more colors and whatnot, and one of the things I really should have bought for myself was more Agrax Earthshade, since I ruined that last pot of it by putting in the dip wash before I realized it was an oil base. Okay, is this visible at all? Am I screwing up that badly with my new camera orientation? That's better. But yeah, I appreciate that Games Workshop has stuff like the Legends rule. It definitely makes it so that people don't feel as bad about their models if, say, for example, they go out of print. Because, I mean, the game's been around for 30-some-odd years. They can't just expect people to be like, well, sorry, you can't use that anymore. We don't like you. We don't want to sell that model anymore. We don't want to make it. Okay. What am I doing here? Just getting tamping this down a little color-wise. I think what I'm just going to do with this, actually, is I'm going to go back over with my dirty dip wash. And, not the one I just bought. My homemade dip wash. And I think I'm just going to go back through and hit this all with the homemade dip wash. Because, I need to kind of knock down some of the coloring, I believe, on the green of this model. Hey, Snow Twig, how's it going? I'm streaming a little early today because there was road construction outside my house, and they decided that to pour cement. They decided to pour cement as I was trying to leave. And since they started before I left, they told me that the cement trunk can't move, since once you start it, you kind of can't stop it. And so I had to stay home today. And it was fine. I have plenty of sick days to use, which is, you know, huge luxury. But it also meant that I've had some more free time, so I got started on the streaming early today. Right now, I'm trying to put some finishing touches and finish up the Puma that I was doing. Well, good to see you. Thank you for popping in, even if it is only for a minute or two. I've completely changed my lineup or my arrangement for my my camera setup, so there's a good chance that I'm going to be really off kilter because I'm used to holding stuff a certain way, and it's confusing me. Sarah from Sepia, I can use that. Here. This right here. It looks like Griff and Simmons are drying up real nice, which is exactly what I'm looking for. And I think something I forgot to do that I probably should do is dry brush me the headlights, though I think I'll save that for after the big wash. I think that's next. Like I was just saying, I don't want to use all of my Nuln oil. And to be completely honest, I can't use any more Agrax Earthshade because I ruined the pot. So I've got this dip wash that I made a while ago. And what I think is going to happen is I'm going to have to use this and paint it all over it and then let it dry. And I think while that happens, I might actually go back to painting up the Primaris captain I was working on. Because I really don't want to work on this guy or wait for him to dry. But that's the next step. And then I can go back to detailing the individual Marines on him. Ugh. I'm so thankful I transferred this over to a bottle that doesn't suck. Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and use this guy. Oh, it smells awful. I have made such a terrible mistake with this dip wash. It smells terrible. I didn't make it right. I used the wrong ingredients. I did something horribly wrong with it, and so it just smells god-awful. And it is a grimy wash. So this is going to become a considerably messier looking model very soon. Which is fine, that's what I want. I want this thing to look like it's seen some combat, it's seen some time, because by the time of my diorama that I'm going to make, it's going to have been charging through, you know, a battlefield and whatnot, since it is going to be leaping a hill. But we'll see how this all ends up looking as I finish it up. Right now, I've got to hold it in the weirdest way to make this work. And if you know what, now we're just going to go ahead and make you dirty as sin. Okay. Now, the headlights don't have to look that dirty since they're going to get actual headlight lighting on them. Go ahead and clean that up a little bit. I really should have painted this model in sub-assemblies, but that's the easy way out. So instead, I'm just having to, like, contort my hand funny to get in there, right? Which is fine. It's gonna be fine. No one's gonna know. Not like there's video evidence that's gonna show me awkwardly handling this model. Okay, we're gonna get that in there and do that. Oh no, I've made mistakes. I get that. Okay, good. They're dry. The Marines are dry. I can handle this by the Marines. I'm gonna grab you by the Marines is a phrase I never thought I would say. Okay, so, Snow Twig, if you're still there, If I remember right, you mentioned that you weren't really going to be much into the painting because of shaky hands. And I could be confusing you with someone else. But if I remember right, you also had a collection of models that you wanted to start painting. Did you ever get around to it, or has that still been something you've kept on the back burner? Again, I might be horrifically misremembering. I'm very tired today for some reason, and it's causing me to have these moments of, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? And even if that's not the case, if there is anyone in there that wants to talk about the cool stuff they're doing, go for it. I'm very clearly struggling a little bit with this guy, but I think that's kind of as far as I want to go with him. Maybe I'll get the shield. I'm gonna have to repaint this a drab green anyway. I'll probably hit that with a dry brush to make it look better. But right now, I think this is about as done as I want to get it, because I'm really, really terrified. Not terrified. I'm really worried about messing it up by just having too much of this dirty wash on it. So I'm going to hit it with some finishing touches. And then I think I'm going to go back to doing some real detail painting with the Primaris Captain. What also is kind of neat is Pilkey's chest pieces are printed, they're primed, they're base coated, and now what's left for me really to do is to start painting them. So I think they're going to be next on the list. But I need to actually really take a moment and look at the color scheme he has set up for each of the pieces, since he has a very intricately done job. Okay, they're going to go there. I'm going to seal that back up. Actually, what I think I'm going to do with this guy is I'll be right back. I'm going to hold on to him and blow dry him for a minute. Knocked most of it off of him. I think that'll be pretty okay. Okie dokie, I'm gonna set that aside. So what Tobiko Fee ended up doing was he made a full chess set. And I've got them ready to go. But I'm just kind of worried about getting started on them. So, for example, these guys are completely primed. And they've all been covered in a gloss varnish, which will hopefully help them ultra wide, which will hopefully help them have a nice shine to them. And I've got to paint some of the details on them and help them, really stand out before they get delivered to the individual that they're being delivered to. But I need to really look at the renders that he sent me so I can make sure I'm doing it right. And I've got to set up... Oh, I have not... Okay. So no, something I've got to do. Yeah, they're super neat. The original ones that he did were a set of flamingos, which were supposed to reference the person they're being sent to, because they have a VTuber, I think, that has that. Putting felt on the bottom? No. I don't know if he's actually going to be using them for anything. I don't know if they're commemorative or if he really wants to have a full chess set. But right now, all they've got is the actual resin bottom. That's probably where I'm going to leave it. I was not asked to put felt on the bottom, though that is a really good idea. They're very hefty, is one thing. They're completely solid resin. I probably shouldn't have done that to, kind of dial back on material used. But it's made it so that they're quite heavy for, resin chess pieces. So hopefully he'll be happy with them, and I'll be able to finish them up within the next few days and send them off. It's gracious. Why would you put felt on the bottom? I think it's to protect the bottom when you play them on a chess set board, and just for feel, because when you take the game piece, you slide it across. That would be my guess. Yes, the guy I'm going to continue working on is this lad. I have been working on him now for many days, as I've tried to make him into the highest or the most detailed model that I can. And I've got some more painting to do because there are clearly spots that I missed this morning. But I still need to work on his chest a little bit. Definitely got to work on the legs, the shield. His arms, except for the accessories, are pretty much done. The helmet, I kind of want to go back and dark line around the eyes, because when I zoomed in, I realized they were not as good looking as I thought they were in terms of clarity and detail. But I'm pretty happy with how he's turning out, because I'm spending an incredible amount of time, hey Pilky, trying to make him look good. How are you doing? So yeah, eventually he's going to be really pretty. I've stripped him now 2 times, and so I'm dealing with having to deal with that chonkiness, but it's all turning out pretty okay. So what I was last working on, doing good. That's good to hear. I'm very slowly catching up on Doig and Swift, and I keep having those moments where I wish I were there to contribute, but I don't wake up at 3 in the morning, which is when they normally stream. So I've just got to deal with being content, listening to them talk about fun, cool stuff. Let's see, what do I need? I'm working on shoulder guards, so I'm going to need yellow to brighten it up. I don't think I need this black right now. And the base of red. But yeah, just kind of chugging along. I think you just missed where I was working on the Invader ATV that I'm turning into a Puma from Red vs. Blue. But I just hit him with my dark wash, my homemade dark wash that is also acting as a pretty good sealant because it's got a lot of PVA glue in it. So hopefully that'll all look good eventually. But right now, I'm going to work on this guy, which means the amount of detail or the amount of progress is going to slow down to almost nothing. So wish me luck, guys. Actually, no, I will need the black because I'm going to need to shade in some darker spots. Something else I spent most of the morning doing was transferring a bunch of old Citadel paints into dropper bottles, and I was absolutely astounded at how chunky and gross they get when you don't touch them for over a year. I gotta remember not to do that anymore because that upset me greatly. This is not the brush I want. This is the ugly brush. I can go over there. I want this other brush with the much thinner. Okay, we're gonna take a little bit of you, put you over there. Take a little bit of you, put you over there. But yeah, they trapped me in my house today. At least until the afternoon, so I couldn't go to work. So I have been kind of hanging out down here while my wife works upstairs, and just trying to occupy myself and keep myself busy. I was finally able to leave the house around, gosh, I don't know, 1:30, and I got to go out. I'm pretty sure I have some paints I haven't touched in way longer than a year. Yeah, well, you've also been in the hobby a lot longer than me, right? So those things have to be gross unless you did a really good job preserving them. But no, some of these, when I started switching over to Vallejo, I stopped using a lot of Citadel paints, and it definitely was noticeable when I tried to shake them up so I could transfer them, because they were very, very chunky and goopy and gross. What did yours look like? You know, have you gone back through them just to see what kind of horrors await you in your very, very old Citadel paints or whatever? I'd be scared to touch that stuff after a while. I was scared to do it today. The worst part is, since I was transferring them to dropper bottles, I would get that horrible slurping, you know, appearance of just chunks of it moving through, and then you'd get like an extra big chunk that would just kind of roll its way in. It looked like spoiled milk. It was upsetting, but also very silly. But yeah, that took a lot longer than I expected. That took most of my morning, which was weird, especially for me, because I don't have a whole lot of paints, but I was being really slow and clumsy with it. Now, something I am pretty happy, actually, especially for you, Pilkey, something I'm pretty excited to talk about. I traded my Tau army. I finally found someone who wanted them. They specifically wanted painted Tau, which made life a whole lot easier. But they ended up giving me essentially the army box, the premier army box for the Leagues of Votann. So I'm now going to have a small Leagues of Votann army to expand on, which I'm debating if I want to keep it Games Workshop plastic, but I do know that there's a very high chance I'm just going to rip the arms off and make them all Amogus. I'm going to keep following. He didn't paint them, which is one of the reasons why he got rid of them, but I'm most likely going to just take the arms off of the Hearthkin and like find a way to glue the guns to their chest, because, you know, Among Us our crewmates have hands, they don't have arms. Actually, can I do this? And that way I can have an entire like dwarven army of Amogus, because that makes me incredibly happy. Just looked at one I know I haven't touched in ages. It looks okay. I think it's more down to the specific color. Reds and whites clump a lot more. You're darn right on that. That was one of them. It was Ushabti Bone, I think, or one of the flesh tones, and it schlorped out this really gross looking lump, just dead center, and I kind of had to like cram it into the dropper bottle with a paintbrush because it was just so solid and gelatinous. It wasn't Pallid Witch flesh. I actually don't have one of those. One moment, I've got the box behind. This is not the box behind. I have the box somewhere. Oh, it's in front of me. One moment. Ugh. Oh. Rakarth flesh. It was Rakarth flesh. Or Rakarth flesh. I don't know what emphasis to put on which syllable. But yeah, that one was deeply upsetting. Like I said, it was kind of lumpy and gross, and then all of a sudden just a big old glob in the middle schlorped out, and made me very, very sad. So I was thinking actually of getting some Pallid Witch flesh today, but I realized that what I would use it for, which would be like skin tone highlights, I really don't need it because I already have some really good like pale whites I can use to tone down some of my regular flesh tone, so I kind of put it back. I'd gotten a wild hair at my butt about wanting to kind of finish using up my Citadel paints before I bought any more Vallejos or used any more Vallejos. Just check mine, it's separated, but it seems fine after a shake. That's what I thought, because it definitely separated. It had that thing where you could see the medium, and it was really gross and a little upsetting, and I shook it up and it was fine. I even put it in the Vortex mixer. But then when I started transferring it over to a dropper bottle, that's when I saw how lumpy it truly was, and that's when I saw the one big glob of it come out. So I hope yours isn't like that, and I hope that yours is able to give you a nice smooth transference when you use it. And speaking of fun things with paint, yesterday I actually had my first painting club this year. I had a couple students interested from the Tabletop Gaming Club who wanted to paint miniatures. And I've been trying to hold like a club meeting specifically for that since January. You just mix it up. Yeah, that's kind of what I did. I just mixed it up enough to break it up. I ended up throwing some more mixing balls, agitator marbles in there, and took an old paintbrush and I just stirred that thing like Betty Crocker, and it eventually all kind of broke up, which is what I was looking for. Okay, I need you to go brighter. I need you to go brighter. But yeah, what made me happy was that none of it was so clumpy and gross that it was unusable. You know what I mean? I was able to salvage pretty much every color and use it in some way or recover it in some way. I wish I could have said the same about the stuff at the painting club though, because last year I asked for one and we got a welcome package from Warhammer from Games Workshop, and it came with a bunch of basic colors, you know, Mephiston Red and White Scar and Abaddon Black and all that stuff. And that's all nice and good, but apparently either someone forgot to properly close the Averland Sunset, or it just popped open because of heat pressure or something. But it was completely solid. It had dried out entirely and was absolutely unusable. And I haven't seen that before, so it was kind of neat to look at. But we ended up having to throw that away, and now I just let them use mine. But now I had to go out and buy a new one. Which again, very minor issue, very fine. They had a lot of fun though. Most of them didn't know anything about Warhammer, and were super excited to learn, because they didn't have any point of reference. They had no clue about anything Warhammer related. Yeah, Averland Sunset's a great color, and I hope that Games Workshop never gets rid of it. It does everything too good. I ended up buying a couple of extra pots. I've been trying really hard to find a Vallejo equivalent, like the color match or whatever, and I've gotten close a few times with a couple colors, but nothing quite hits that same sweet note that Averland Sunset hits. So I guess I'm gonna have to keep looking. Hey, AK Former, how's it going? How's your day been? I'm just chugging along, painting this Indomitus Captain to the best of my ability, and struggling every step of the way. How did those dip models work out? It was a freaking travesty. That's right, you were the one who was trying to help me with that. The help you gave me was, completely and utterly amazing, because the thing with Averland Sunset isn't color, it's the coverage, it's the perfect base for yellow. It is. It gets remarkably good coverage for a yellow. But, they eventually turned out okay, and your advice is the reason why, aka Former, because, first of all, I really should have done what I was going to do and just dip them and then rinse them and shake them off and then let them dry, because the two models I did that to dried to a perfect consistency for me to use mineral spirits, or whatever it's called. What's it called? Mineral spirits? Yeah, mineral spirits. To kind of dab it off with a Q-tip. The other ones, it was just on so thick that I gave up after a little while, and I got really disappointed, but I went back a second time another day and continued to kind of dab it off. And eventually it worked, but they're not as clean as I would have liked them to be. But after a little bit of babying them, they've turned out okay, and I'm fine having them in my army. At some point, though, I'm going to want to replace them now that I know the difference. I'm also really scared to open up the dip wash, because if you remember right, I sprayed some water in there, and I'm pretty sure it's all separated and weird now. But if you want to see, one moment. This is kind of how they turned out. There we go. And you can see, unfortunately, there's still a bunch of it gunked in his jetpack, in his back, on his foot. It was just stuff I couldn't get out. And it's fine, because it taught me a couple things. One of which, and you can see it down there, is that now I know exactly how much of the dip wash to use. And the other is I'm no longer scared of using oil paints. And so I went ahead and bought some, and now I can do oil washes. So I definitely appreciate your help. Like, it definitely made the process go a lot quicker, because I was able to take what you were telling me and use it to help out. But I should have definitely rinsed these guys off and let them dry that way, because some of it was just on too thick. But I mean, they didn't turn out too bad. I am super impressed with how good the oil paint comes off, though, with the mineral spirits. I think that's really cool. It's like magic. So hopefully, the next time I do something like this, it turns out much better. Thank you. I saw a thing a little while ago that suggested that after you do your Zenithal Prime, you hit the entire thing with like a red, and then red undercoat, and then you go back over with your warm white or whatever, and then you hit the yellow, because the red shadows act as a nice contrast against the yellow color from above. So that's what I was trying to do there, and I think it turned out pretty good. But yeah, those were completely custom models from a wonderful creator on Cults, who has done a great job mimicking the style of the new Horus Heresy ones. So kudos to him for being a badass and releasing that stuff. Can I see what I'm doing here? Not really. Let me give it a shot anyway. But yeah, I don't know if you know Snow Twig. I don't know if I've talked about it, but I've decided that I wanted to replace the entirety of my Primaris army with a Firstborn army, because I'm not fond of the Primaris look, and I was getting tired of pub stomping my friends because the Primaris units were just so much better than what they were putting out. So I've gone back to Firstborn, and my army is going to be that now. And I think at some point I might go ahead and make a Primaris army to go along with it, because I now have the resources. But right now my obsession is trying to get to 2,000 points of Firstborn. Well, actually right now my obsession is getting this Primaris captain colored, or painted. But beyond that, it's doing the other thing. So hopefully I'll be able to get that done very soon, because I want to have it done for 10th edition. So if I need to make any changes to the army, it can be really quick and easy, instead of having to do a wholesale change. 2,000 points of the Warhams, yes! Which is not that difficult, don't get me wrong, but given that I started with an Indomitus army, I've slowly made my way back to Firstborn. So that's what I'm trying to get to again, is out of the Primaris stuff. Yeah, the Primaris are the new ones. They're the bigger ones that have, like, they don't have the scowling looking helmet. And they're a little bit bigger, their proportions are better, and they've got better stat lines for their guns and equipment. So actually, I can show you a really good example of this. Yeah, the better Marines, basically. The only thing they don't have going for them is that they're not as good at the actual, they're not as good at the strategy, because they don't have that level of experience. Let me find a dude. There's a dude, there's an old dude. Okay, let me find a new dude. Where's a new dude? Let me find a new dude. Do I have any new dudes down here? No. Don't have any new dudes right there. There we go. Okay, so, like, this is a Primaris Marine. He's obviously been stripped of whatever color he was supposed to be, probably a red. But, you can see he's got pretty decent proportions. He's got the, like, the Shredder-looking mask. He's got those weird scallop knee things going on. And this is a Firstborn Marine. This one isn't built to true scale, so he's really tiny in comparison. He's got the Vox grill, his knee pads are slightly different. His gun is considerably smaller. I like these guys more. I don't like their size, but I like these guys more. So I'm trying to phase out these ones so I can play more of these ones. And since I'm going much deeper into the lore as well, I want my army to be Horus Heresy compatible, if not perfectly matched. So a lot of my army is relic stuff. Like, I've got these Cataphracti Terminators that I painted up that have slightly different rules in Horus Heresy if I ever get into playing that. What other fun stuff do I have here? I've got this super neat, I think he's a Mark 3 Marine? Mark 3 Marine. Tech Marine. Really like how this guy looks. I went through and did him really quickly. I'm gonna touch him up and make him prettier later. But yeah, kind of that idea. My captain, my HQ is this Imperial Fist Praetor in Tartaros Terminator armor, which I could just turn into a captain in Terminator armor in 40k. But yeah, so I want mine to be entirely firstborn and not have to. You like the Primaris helmets? Yeah, I can see that. There are a lot of people that do. They're not my favorites because I just kind of, I don't want to say I grew up with the scowling ones, but the ones that I've known have always been the scowling marine armor. So the Mark IV and Mark X one just looks wrong to me. And yeah, same with the Phobos armor. Why do you like? I think we've talked about this before, but why do you like the Phobos armor? What does it do for you that makes you go, yes, this is the good armor? And if you guys give me a second after I finish painting this bit, I can show you an example of Phobos armor, because I have a set of Primaris Infiltrators in my drawer that I can the non-captain versions of your model has white scars. I'll check that out in a second. I'd love to. I love looking at pictures of other people's models. So let's check this out. Okay. Oh, so you're talking about the blade guards. Yeah, those are good looking. Give me a second. I can do this. I know how to do this. Not video capture device 2. Window capture. And boom. I said boom. There we go. So these are Pilkey's blade guard ancients, or blade guard veterans, not blade guard ancients, my apologies, as white scars. And these look fantastic. Beautiful job on the highlighting there, buddy. And your patterning makes me upset because it's so damn good. That's part of what makes the white scars so cool to me, is just that they've got the really neat, markings all over them. If I were to redo my Primaris army, I probably would do them as white scars, because the Primaris models just do look generally sleeker than the other ones, and I think that's a great look. And yeah, so no, I can agree. The Phobos armor looks more tactical. You know what I mean? It has a much better look for someone who needs to be efficient, because it's meant to more mimic, I guess, modern day armor, modern day equipment. So this is a heavily modified Primaris intercessor with a power fist and a heavy bolt pistol, and this one's a Primaris infiltrator. Yeah, tactical, you can use the word if you want to, and they do kind of fit in that model. Gosh, you can tell how much older this one is by how badly shaded he is. But yeah, you can definitely see that they're meant to be more tactical with how they look, right? Meanwhile, I really need to redo this guy. Meanwhile, you can see just how incredibly chunky they have the intercessor armor. But yeah, I didn't want to look down on it by calling it tactical, but that is pretty much the idea. It's like they're eliminators who are wearing the Phobos armor and have the cloaks and everything, and always get a laugh out of me, because nothing's funnier than the idea of a Imperial Fist eliminator wearing his bright yellow armor, his bright red cloak, and then trying to be a sniper, in the bushes somewhere, like they wouldn't stand out. So there is a lot of fun to be had with it. I mean, it's 40k, it doesn't need to make sense, right? But, I don't know. The Phobos just doesn't do it for me, but I'm glad it made someone happy, because they're really cool designs, and it's neat seeing people's different expressions of that stuff. Whoops, okay. And yes, no twig, the swords are really neat. The power swords are some of the coolest weapons in 40k. Especially when they're painted really well, like what Pilkey did. You get some really, really nice effects on the power swords, and you can do some really cool stuff with that. Okay. But no, I think it's just because I've been reading so much Horus Heresy. I'm really stuck on the old school Marines, and just really enjoying that look and that aesthetic, you know what I mean? So hopefully, I don't want to say hopefully I'll get over it, but hopefully I really fell in love with the Universal Guard range by the Maker's Cult. I don't remember what that looks like. If you have pictures, I'll more than gladly look at them. But actually, check this out. This makes me really happy. These were made by, gosh, Fummelfinger? Loggy K? One of the two. But he did his own version of Mark III and Mark IV armor. And I really like how this stuff ended up turning out. I think proportionately it's really good. I think that he did a really good job making them not look too cartoonish. You know, with like the really skinny legs or the really giant head or the giant gorilla arms. So I really like these models a lot. I think this one just screams Horus Heresy at me. And I think that's really freaking neato. But yeah, these are completely 3D printed, and that makes me very happy. You can kind of see it more clearly on the backpack where the layer lines are really visible, but it definitely doesn't matter to me because I play this game with friends. Not your models. Yes. Oh, okay, yeah, these are really good Imperial Guardsman proxies. These are from CG Trader, so someone did these. Wow, they really did a good job with the weathering on these. Good lord. I like that the las rifles are very clearly las rifles, but they look different enough that you can tell they're not Games Workshop, but they so very clearly read as las rifles. I might have to buy some of these because I have a friend who had a Start Collecting Guard box, and he never really did anything with it and left it at my place, and it's been a couple years now, so I decided to paint it. But if I wanted to, I could really go ahead and start a guardsman army with the stuff that he left behind. And I think I want to do that just kind of as a tribute to him. They're not las rifles, they're las rifles. You bought their shock troops? I mean, that's fair. That's something I'm probably going to do soon. But I've got so many other things to do. Like I said, I just traded my Tau with someone on Reddit, and they're going to give me the starter box for the Leagues of Votan. So I'm gonna have my own little Space Dwarf army. But as far as I'm concerned, the best part about that is I'm just going to make them into Among Us, like I did with my other Leagues of Votan that I bought. So I'm gonna have an entire army of Amogus, of crewmates. Oh man, I messed that up. One moment, please. I need to undo a screw up. Here we go. Yep, that's the plan. I have many ideas, and they're going to be stupid. Oh, those look so good. Look at those guys. Those are so cool. For a second, I thought they were stormtroopers from like stormtroopers analogs from Star Wars, but those are fantastic. Yeah, give me a second. I can show you my Among Us or my Amogus. I originally did these as kind of just a joke because I realized when I was looking at them how much they look like Among Us. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before, if not way too often. But it's some of my favorite dumb things. So when I bought them, I wanted to see if was I going to have to sand anything off or was it going to be fine. And as it turns out, their torsos, they should be Casterkin Scion proxies. They really look it. Those stormtroopers really look it. But the Hearthkin torsos are just like flat cutoffs at the shoulder. So it was really, really easy to convert them. And so I tried to keep a decent amount of detail on them when I made them. But they're very clearly meant to be crewmates. You know what I mean? I kit bashed that one out of bits from a Chaos Possessed and from a D&D Beholder mini that I had. But yeah, these are my crewmates. And so my plan is, since I now have the startings of an army, I'm going to go ahead and just like take the guns off of the sprue and paint them to the right color, and then I'm just gonna glue them onto their torsos because crewmates have, you know, no arms, they just have shoulders, so, or just hands. So that's the plan for me. is to do that kind of dumb crap. And I've got 20 more Hearthkin Warriors coming my way, and I've got 3 bikes, and the last bit, and 2 of the HQ Uthar and the other champion. So I'm really excited to do that kind of dumb stuff. Okay, basing your Votan proxies. Oh, those are great. Cromlech does really good stuff. So you're going to use those diamond minerals as part of the basing. Yeah, that's going to look really good. I want mine to all look like they're going to be on, oh my gosh, I forgot the name of the ship. The ship, basically. And I even found a way to make it fit in the flavor, because I decided, let me see if I have it on here. I named, you know, because all of the Votan have corporate names, right? So I decided to name mine the Skeld Mira Zaibatsu, which is a combination of the name of the ship and I think an Aliens reference. I don't quite remember. But they're going to be, you know, completely shameless corporate capitalists that go out and do the thing that the Votan do. They're just not going to have any arms while they do so. They're going to have a disarming charm about them. Until they, you know, rip your face off. Or shoot a hole through your head. Whichever comes first. Either way, very excited to have that stuff. Can't wait to start playing with it. Which should be here hopefully by the beginning of next week. Because I just shipped off all my Tau today. And the gentleman said he was going to ship off the Votan he's sending me to, tomorrow. He's going to pack them up tonight and send them off tomorrow. So I'll have that to look forward to. And to be completely honest, I may not keep this setup. I'm finding it to be more trouble than it's worth. Because of how everything's kind of set up right now, I'm fighting the shade of the camera, and I'm fighting my own hand. You know what I mean? And so finding spots where I can adequately... Actually, I wonder, will getting this out of the way help at all? I don't know. I guess I will find out. But I'm kind of fighting a whole lot of different elements here, and it's making it difficult for me to move the brush around without hitting something. So are those bits, Pilkey, going to be to show that they're mining for diamonds and that they're trying to extract resources? Because I'm assuming I don't think you're going to paint them that mucusy green, are you? Okay. Let's see if I can do this. This has always been like the hardest part of painting this guy, is getting this one pauldron done, given all of the decor that he's got on it. They're going to be orange crystals. Oh yeah, that's right, because you're doing that Lego ice scheme, right? So you've got like the pale blue and the orange going across each other, which is going to look absolutely fantastic when you're done. They're completely done. I'm glad that you got to show them off a little bit with Community Day. And I feel kind of bad because it's like, I don't know what else to put in for Community Day, especially this week on Doig Swift, because I don't know how I'm gonna one up what I brought in last time, you know? That big old Plague Titan kind of set the tone, so I'm not sure. Oh, forgot about Community Day. We still got time, right? He usually when does Doig usually open up the whatchamacallit? I can brain the form. Martine said the deadline was probably around the 27th or the 28th. Okay, yeah, because I haven't caught up with Doig Swift at all. I'm really behind. So I don't watch their new stuff until I kind of make my way through their old stuff. I made an exception for the community days because I was excited to see my work featured. And something I thought was kind of fun, because I finally encouraged her to do it, is, you know, the Space Girl picture that was up there on the last community day? The one of the girl looking out of the window out into space? That one made me really happy, because that was my wife's work. Art by QB is my wife, and she paints really, really cool art, and does a lot of different stuff, mainly sticking with like D&D nerd stuff. And I convinced her to do that because she's really reticent about kind of putting her name out there. And it's like, well, dear, you're not gonna get any more traction if you don't, you know, show your art off in new spaces. Yeah, she actually, I was talking her up a little bit on the last stream, I think. She got approached by a book publishing company to kind of work as a freelancer for them, and got approached by a tabletop gaming company who made a game called Necrobiotic, which is, I've never heard of it, but it was apparently popular enough to get kickstarted and then allow them to launch a few other games. And they wanted her to do a comic for them in that world. So they gave her just the Necrobiotic, you know, game book, and are then going to pay her rate to make a comic for them. So she's got a couple little things going on. She also, she also keeps trying to get in contact. Thank you. I'm really excited for her, and I hope that it leads to bigger and better things. She's also hoping to get in contact with a publisher in the United States called Iron Circus Comics, which is, I think I've mentioned this before, but it's like the largest black-owned independent comic publishing company in the United States. And they recently did the Lackadaisy cartoon that was put up on YouTube that's doing really good numbers. So unfortunately, she couldn't meet the owner of the company at the convention we went to in Chicago because she was way too busy fielding a million interviews and doing a whole bunch of work for that. But she got to speak with one of the higher-ups, who now has like a bundle of her stuff, like her portfolio, to give to the head of Iron Circus Comics, and maybe that will lead to something greater, but we do not know. So I'm excited for her. I was happy to encourage her to promote her work. And if, like I've mentioned before, if you guys check out her Etsy, you might find some neat, weird D&D stuff that you like. I don't know. But I will shamelessly promote my wife every chance I get. And hopefully she'll have some cool stuff to show off at this community day. What I think mine may end up being, just because I feel like at this point I can't go for size, I gotta go for scale, is I'll take a picture of my army and be like, so I've been working on getting an entire Firstborn Space Marine army ready for the new edition, and I'm nearly done, and here's what I got done so far. Is there a link? One moment. I always forget if Etsy has like one of those clean links that are really easy to. Etsy.com. Oh, there it is. No, not search. There it is. I don't want that stupid reference. Tradoozy. There we go. And since I'm on the site, I'll even part around on it a little bit. No, not window capture? Is that what I want? Window capture? No. Warham's foot? No. No? No. What the heck? What the heck, guys? What the heck? Okay, the window capture is being dumb. There it is. Okay, so I've done this before, and I'm going to do this a lot more. This is Art by QB's Etsy page. She's got a whole bunch of stuff. She's got some neat little pins. She's got some spoopy ghost art. She's got some D&D inspired Valentine's postcards, which unfortunately were made a little late for Valentine's. She's got a short comic. She's got a larger graphic. Wow, that actually is a bestseller, ain't it? Not like a New York Times or anything, but it's one of her better selling items. She's got this cute little Demi Mothman. She's got an Oops All Kobolds, or Uh-Oh All Kobolds shirt that I think is absolutely hilarious, and I want to get myself one. But I just haven't had the money recently. Just a lot of neat little weird things that she's continuing to expand out with. Boop. Okay. This guy's pale yellow legs are making me sad. So I'm going to take a minute from painting his, and don't feel obligated to buy anything from there, but just go ahead and have a look if you want. And if you see something cool, if not, that's fine as well. His legs are making me sad, so I'm going to go ahead and take a minute to paint his leggies a little bit and get them a slightly richer color so they're not this sickly green yellow. Though I think what that's telling me is that I actually need to paint that more of a brown, a brownish yellow, to show that it's being shadowed by his shield. And I also need to keep this in focus centered on the camera so it's not constantly being off to the side. But anyway, I'm not sure what I'm going to do for this this community day. I think, like I said, I think what I'm going to do is post my army. I don't know if I can get much more done than that, because I've been working on so many things. I might be able to get Pilkey's, or not Pilkey, Toby Kofi's chess set done. And if I do, I'll post that in there as well. But, most of my stuff has been like little personal projects, because I've been kind of out of commission for the past month. Come on. There we go. I was supposed to get a couple of commissions earlier in the week or earlier in the month, but they just kind of never followed through. I'll definitely have a Sagittarian in there, hopefully my Berserks too. I hope so, because your army has that really great striking look to them, and it'd be really cool for more people to get to see your space dwarves. Did I tell you, I actually got to base prime a Hecaton land fortress about a month or two ago. He wanted it to be this like deep magenta color. I think it was Doomfire magenta. But what we found out is that contrast paints look freaking awful when you put them through an airbrush if you're trying to get their mid-tone, because they don't work. Like, they're beautiful and they have deep, rich colors when you put them through an airbrush, but unfortunately, they don't tend to have a really good mid-tone when you put them through the airbrush. Let me see if I can find it really quick. That ain't it. That ain't it. What was the guy's name? Was it me? Nope, not that one. Yep, okay. So, open link. And that can go away. Because he wanted it to be more like a pinkish color, I believe. Link. And wanted it to be brighter on top. So, what ended up happening was, it ended up becoming like this red. And that red was just way too much. And so he asked me if I could like tone it down a little bit, if I could brighten it up. And what I ended up doing was coming up with more of a pinkish spray, so that at the top it was brighter, and then as you worked your way down, it became more of that red. But that's what it ended up looking like. And I don't know if he actually even liked that. He paid me the money for it, but I think he most recently posted what it ended up looking like, and it was not that color. Let's see what I can... Let's see, because I saw him posted a bit ago. Is this it? No, that one doesn't look like it's it. Maybe it is. Nope, that's not the right one. That's his Sagittar. No clue. Either way, it's just a big, intimidating, vehicle, and he was struggling with that. either way, I'm gonna get back to painting this lad because I was in all honesty, I was kind of stalling so that his this yellow had a time to dry. So speaking of Averland Sunset, I am actually not using Averland Sunset. I am using, I think it's called Yellow Gold Brown. I don't remember, but it doesn't quite have that same orange hue that Averland Sunset has, and it creates more of a yellow color, which is why I wanted to go with it. But it definitely struggles with coverage in a way that Averland Sunset does not. But that's okay, because I'm going to be shading over this guy so much with so many layers you're probably never going to notice. Holding off on my land fortress until I've done more troops. Understandable. That land fortress is quite a task to have to deal with. I don't think he's done it either. Like I said, he posted his Sagittar saying, you know, finish my first vehicle. So I think he's kind of looking at that monster and going, yeah, I'll do that later when I'm more ready for it. Trying to alternate between troops and vehicles, that is incredibly fair. I don't know why I haven't yet, other than just wanting to make sure that I have enough resin for other jobs. But I want to print my second Whirlwind and my drop pod soon. And yeah, now that this guy has started to get more color to him, he's definitely coming together. Really liking how he's turning out. One moment. I just got pinged. Yep. So how many points of Votan do you have? Did you end up buying like the whole kit and caboodle and getting a bunch of the really neat models, or did you kind of stop yourself and limit your purchases of those guys? Because there is definitely a ton of Votan models to play with right now. Not like a, you know, Space Marine amount, but it just seems like they did a really good job. Having a good drop pods are fun, especially now that you'll be able to use them with Primaris and 10th. Very true. I can't wait. I just love the feel of them, right? The idea that these giant metal pods are landing from the sky and come spilling out a whole bunch of horrifying superhumans with multi-meltas and rocket launchers. I think that's what everyone's kind of waiting for and hoping for, is the new Flamer unit, and just having that spill out and light everything on fire. Again, I'm being a cheap ass, and I'm printing all of this instead of buying it, because I can't afford to spend like $1,000 more on this hobby, or on this army. But I really kind of wish I did, because I saw an amazing custom kit bash someone did where they made their drop pod spring-loaded, so that when it hit the ground, it A, bounced back up, and then B, like, exploded the doors out, so it actually kind of opened up. And I just thought that was such a great look to it. So hopefully, the resin one I make will be acceptable for play. I am definitely going to have to go back and do these spikes, because the lighting I'm getting is not good enough for me to see exactly what I'm doing. Haven't gotten to 2,000 points of Votan yet. Got the initial box plus a Sagittar, a Land Fortress, some Berserks, and some Hearthguard. That's fair. I mean, it sounds like you got all the major units, and so hopefully they're going to be really friggin' fun to paint and field. I actually haven't looked at the points costs, and I'm kind of holding off on it until 10th edition. But that does sound like quite a bit. So hopefully you don't have too much further to go. Something that's maybe kind of sad is how quickly the boarding patrols have sold out everywhere. I actually found the orc boarding patrol at a local game store today. But yeah, exactly. But I just don't have the money right now. From what I understand, the orc one is really popular because of the new boss Snickrot model. And that's fine and good and all, but I just kind of want it because it looks like a decent place to start building orcs, and I want to build an orc army. Gosh, I'm having a hard time keeping this thing centered because of this light. I've decided I need a Xenos army that isn't just more bipedal bipedal humanoids that shoot at each other. Because I got rid of my Tau for that reason. I already have like the Chaos Space Marines and Death Guard, so I kind of don't need to tread down that line again. I was thinking Votan, but I was like, nah, they're just kind of, you know, they're basically human Tau in terms of being a shooting first army. You know, until I found the this trade, and now I'm like, heck yeah, I want my Space Dwarves, thank you. But that led me to the Orcs. Like, at some point, I'm going to make a Slaanesh army. As soon as the Emperor's Children come out in 10th edition, I'm buying the army box, I'm buying as many units as I can, I'm buying Norse Marines, I'm going to, like, program it so their drop pod plays trap music when I throw it at the table. I am going to be obnoxious with the Noise Marines when I get a chance. But until then, I kind of don't want to buy another buy a Chaos Marine box, because I've already got, like, a Chaos Marine army and whatnot. Yeah, I think it'd be neat to have an army that someone else could play that is so drastically different than the other stuff that I have. And, like, I've already got a Boss Snickrot. I've already got the Commandos, because I bought those just for funsies. So it just feels like the Boarding Patrol box is not a bad place to start, and I can get that and the Combat Patrol and be relatively set for a bit as I start building up the rest of the army, you know? You don't play Orcs to win, you play them to have fun. Exactly. I've mentioned it before, but I have a friend who is playing Orcs, but he's not very, like, financially committed to the game because he doesn't have a lot of money. And so he buys toys from, like, the dollar store and converts them into Orc vehicles. Like, his one of his Shock Jump Dragstas is a UPS truck that he converted into an Orc truck. And it's just like, that kind of mindset is what I want to have with an army. And it feels like the Orcs are just perfect for that. And while you clearly can have some fun with the Death Guard, because they're just so happy to exist, it's not the same, you know? They're content. I want to be, like, aggressively joyful. And while I'm doing all this, I'm actively refusing to look up any, like, metagame crap. I just want to build the army and see what I can do with it. See what dumb, fun stuff I can come up with. Best truck I've ever seen was just a die-cast model of a skip with some wheels stuck. That's fantastic. I want to do things like that. I'm not much of a kit basher, and I don't really have the creativity to do that, but I just want to be passing through, like, the toy aisle at a grocery store and see something and go, this gives me ideas. I think my favorite one was someone realized that the Shock Jump Dragsta model, the chassis fits perfectly under a Volkswagen Beetle frame, or whatever, so they just, like, stuck that on top and stuck Orcs, like, popping out of the windows and whatnot. You've got a converted Rhino as a truck. Every vehicle is an Orc vehicle. It just doesn't know it yet, right? That had to be a lot of fun to kit bash and ruin and graffiti and do all sorts of fun things too. Okay. I've talked about it before, and I don't know if I ever showed you guys, but same friend made a Stompa out of a Mr. Potato Head. And actually, now that I think about it, I found the photos. It's going to take me a second, but I found photos of the Mr. Potato Head because I took pictures of it when he came over, or when he visited for a winter holiday. And so somewhere in my old cell phone archive, I have this giant, stupid-looking Mr. Potato Head Stompa that I can now show off. So let me find it again real quick. And you guys can be greatly amused by the insanity that is a Mr. Potato Head. What the heck is that? Oh, those are some minis that I have that I still haven't painted. Okay. Yep, I found it. Window capture. Camera. There we go. And this is. Oops, no, that's not what I want. Oh my goodness. Is this it? Boom. There it is. So this was what he made using a Mr. Potato Head and a bunch of other crap that he had on him at the time. I love the shoulder-mounted barrel full of guns that are just kind of glued and stuck in. Yeah, it's amazing. I don't think it's very good because it's a Stompa, you know. Oh my goodness. One moment. Here's another shot. Here's another shot of the lad. From, I guess this is front view. I think he's got a grot hanging off of the bottom down in the corner. He's got one up top that I guess is steering it. I don't know if this was the finishing touches on it, but I just know that he has a lot of fun doing his kit bashing. And so he's taken to taking some of the other things that I've either given him or whatever, and he's repainted them to mold them further into his image. If you give me a second, actually, I can find his profile. He has a profile on Instagram as well. One moment. Nope, not that one. And he took a Stompa that I printed for him and assembled, and he repainted it and made it more orky. So let's see if I can. There it is. There it is. And boom. So he took this and he added some more stuff to it. He definitely added a lot more details that I kind of neglected. Yeah, he definitely did do a lot of fun work with that, didn't he? But yeah, it's a huge model. It's really impressive. It's really neat. One of my favorites I've put together. He was very happy with it and was not expecting it. There he is, like assembling the dang thing, trying to put it together. I think this might be one of the earlier ones. He put a big ass medallion on it. That's fantastic. Another thing he did, he took a weird boy, and apparently the arm on it snapped off, so he has it put together now with a paper clip, so the skull just kind of wobbles awkwardly in the air, as if it's being summoned. A lot of fun, dumb stuff. A lot of fun, dumb stuff. But yeah, I want to have that kind of chaotic gremlin energy with an army. And since I've been playing ones that are so uptight and standard, I really haven't had that yet. I think the closest I've gotten is in painting the Death Guard. Since they're kind of so sloppy and laissez-faire, I was able to be a lot less skillful with my paint job. And not in a bad way. It was a different type of skill. But I'm having a lot of fun learning and messing around with this stuff. Okay, so what I think I'm going to need to do here, mayhap, is that all of these details are kind of blending together for me. All the shoulder details are blending together, so I wonder if this is thin enough for me to dark line. Just barely. Okay, I'm probably going to end up changing that on a later time when I look at it more closely. But right now, I am not liking how meshed together everything is, and I kind of want to not use a wash if I can help it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this shoulder pad with some very thin dark lining around like the spikes. And do everything in my power to make it more visually distinct. That bay is going to have to wait a second because that one got messed over a bit. Okay. Let's see, we can... Unfortunately, I seem to have ruined this brush already, and the tip is nowhere near as strong as it used to be. Okay. That middle one might be worthwhile. Are you dry enough? You are not dry enough, and I just add more water to you. My goodness. Now you're definitely not dry enough. Oh, goodness. So I saw that they posted new terrain rules for. I mean, they've been drip feeding us information for 10th edition now for many days, and they're going to keep doing so until Warhammer Fest, and I get that. But I definitely saw that they did new terrain rules today. And I'll be completely honest, terrain was never something I played a whole lot with in 9th edition because I just didn't understand it. They claim that they're simpler. And I guess they look simpler because it doesn't seem like there's as many tables to have to look through. But I really don't know. I don't remember how terrain worked in 9th. I don't know how much better this new stuff is. The terrain rules look so much better than 9th. How so? I hate new cover. Oh, cool. We got dissenting opinions. I'd love to hear both of your guys' opinions on this topic. Not in an argumentative way, just in a I'd like to hear why you like it, Pilkey, and why AKA Former you take exception to it. Because I feel like 10th edition is going to be incredibly divisive in a lot of ways, and that's fine, I guess. But it's going to be fun seeing how everything kind of parses out and whether or not some of these ideas end up being good or bad. I never went up all the way on the brightness with his yellow in that shoulder, did I? That's okay. He is really getting good. He is really getting closer to done, isn't he? You get a +1 to the save unless you have this save or better against gun with this AP. Okay. I mean, I know they have like they have the thing where it's like it doesn't affect your invulnerability saves, and I know that's been kind of part of the course. 9th had so much complexity. You had a bunch of complex rules that each bit of terrain had, but none were particularly clear. And it looks like in this version they have it so that it's basically you get a +1 to your save if you're in cover, and here are the different covers and how to know if you're actually in cover. Is that right? Does that, I mean, that's a really weird way of summarizing it, but that's what it looked like from my quick glance at it today while I was doing a bunch of cleaning. Like, you'll know you're in cover with X terrain because of these conditions. If the weapon is AP 0, your save can't go above 3+. I mean, that seems fair enough, I suppose. Again, don't know how that's going to play out. I suppose we'll see it, but having that as a flat rule at least gives us a baseline to work off of, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. I like that was able to be explained in like 2 sentences, as opposed to what felt like I said, the full table of 9th edition. So hopefully it works out really well, and hopefully it manages to win over more people. Or if it is a problem, it's remedied in a very quick and easy way. Really don't like the exception rules. I don't know what those are. Give me a second, sorry, stretching my back. So what are the exception rules? Most cases you have cover if either you're in or behind terrain. Differs slightly based on terrain, but it always has. Yeah, that I did notice was true. Like if you're near a pipe or whatever, you have to be like between you and the target. There has to be some obscuring detail, and you have to be within 3 inches of that terrain, which I assume is that 3+ in the AP 0 weapon. Oh, okay. Well, that's fair, AKA Former. I can see why that can be bothersome. I don't know, I did notice with like 8th and 9th edition, they were trying to get away from some of the more fiddly math hammer bits, and then they proceeded to make it even more frustrating. I do like the +1 AP if you're 6 inches up and shooting down. That was a neat idea and really incentivizes you to use vertical terrain, which I felt was something severely missing from 9th edition and from Warhammer in general. Is like there was almost no incentive to get off of ground level. You know what I mean? And so getting better armor piercing because you're shooting from above and better able to like target your enemy, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. And it's something that I kind of wished was in 40K and Warhammer and, you know, a lot of these tabletop games when I first started playing. Of course, I didn't play a lot of them. I played a couple of them. But I always thought that was weird that being on the high ground didn't give you some kind of advantage, whether it be visibility or otherwise. Okay, so 7th and lower are used to be very different, much clearer, but not as widely useful. And once again, I would love to hear an explanation so I can learn, because I have no clue. I love learning things, and you guys do such a great job of teaching me. But yeah, I know that 7th had some interesting and weird ideas that were I don't want to say convoluted, but definitely made the game more complex in ways that they eventually decided were too much, and that they got rid of. Whether it was beneficial or not, well, we're seeing the results of it around now. But like I said, I don't have a framework to go off of because I didn't start playing until 3/4 through 1/8. Or 9/10 through 8, I guess. Okay, I really, really, really hate the fact that this light is so in the way, but I need it for detail work. But it's causing me to push the Mini away from the center of the camera, which helps no one. It's really hard for the camera to see what I'm doing when it's so dang far out of the way. There we go. I suppose that'll be okay. Okay, eventually I have to paint the scroll and the bones. I really don't like how thick those lines ended up being, so I think I'm going to have to go back over them. What I'm probably going to do is, this yellow is not going to be anywhere near enough. So what I'm probably going to do is grab some buff and kind of paint over the entire shoulder pad. And then hit that with a yellow, which should do a better job of covering this up than just straight yellow over it. You had cover saves on top of invulnerable and armor. Armor piercing didn't affect cover saves, and simply put simply, you had stuff like scatter terrain giving a +6 up to cover, most terrain giving 5 up, and ruins giving 4 up. Okay. Okay, so it just gave you a static terrain save that you could use instead of, I'm assuming, your other saves. In the same way you could use an invul save instead of your armor save. Okay. I could definitely see how that would make things very odd and interesting with units that have really low armor saves until you get behind certain cover, and suddenly they are much, much beefier. And, given that I didn't have to play, or I wasn't playing in that situation, I really don't know how I feel about that. I don't know, was it a feel-good kind of thing, or was it something that was frustrating to play against? Oh, you know what? In some ways, it was so much simpler. Yeah, I can see that, because it's one number to remember. You don't have to kind of remember it as a modifier to something else, right? I think, for the most part, I'm done with these shoulder pads. I guess more what I'm asking, though, was it simpler in a good way, like in a way that the community liked? Because I feel like I didn't find it too frustrating as I played Taos. Okay, thank you for answering that question. You were typing it as I was asking it, I suppose, and that was about as perfect an answer as you could get.
I will say, one thing that I'm both sad and happy about is that the way I built my army, my firstborn army, was very specifically for how ninth edition worked with how it buffed the fists and whatnot. So by the time I get it all ready to play, and by the time I actually get to play it, everything that I did to make the army effective is going to be functionally useless unless they do something very specifically Imperial Fisty, which is a really gross sentence. But yeah, so I've got the 2 Whirlwinds and the 2 Tech Marines, which you guys saw, and the Tech Marines give the Whirlwinds +1 to hit. And if you remember or know, the Whirlwinds have indirect, which means they don't have to see their target, right? They can just hit whatever's within a 4-foot range. And so that was the plan, was I wanted them to be able to severely annoy the opponent's either big units or big mobs, right? So that they were less of a problem to deal with. And I understood that, you know, they had a +1 to their armor saves, and it gave -1 to hit, so they would have to hit on 4s, and their armor piercing would go down. But here's the big thing. The Tech Marines would have given them +1 to hit again, so they would be back at 3-ups, and the -1 armor save would be negated by Devastator Doctrine, which you start the game at, so they would be back to their base profile. And additionally, because of Legacy of Dorn, they would get extra damage since they were Strength 7 weapons. So if I did hit, I'd be hitting with 3 damage apiece. And if I recall right, the weapons also had Blast. But either way, the point is that the Whirlwinds were supposed to be the heavy artillery that would soften up the enemy, and then I could go in with my lines of Bolter Fire and Heavy Bolter Fire, which had exploding 6s, and also my multi-multiplier, which would come in via drop pod. And I also have Assault Terminators that would teleport in with my my Chapter Master, who would give them, I think it would give them rerolls to hit with their Thunder Hammers, or a +1, I forget, but would also have like the Relic Blade and the Imperium Sword as his Warlord trait, so he'd be, I think, Strength 7 with like AP 3 and damage 2 or some crazy thing like that. Anyway, Hammerheads with Strength 20 railguns. I really, really appreciate that they've decided to expand out the range of values for strength and toughness, because I feel like that's a great way to differentiate between like tank killing weapons and everything else. I think keeping it down between strength like 1 through 12 or whatever, or 3 through 12 was too narrow, because it felt really weird that I would have multi-meltas that would absolutely obliterate anything that wasn't a Titan. And so yeah, the idea of strength 20 railguns just deleting a Rhino or something feels absolutely correct. You know what I mean? And then what I do hope, though, is that, like with the Pathfinders, they don't give the Pathfinders the same degree of... Sorry, I've got, like, a thing on my... I'm picking some paint off of my hand because it's itching. But, I hope that they don't end up giving, like, the Tau Pathfinder Strength 20 railguns, or the Votan with their, you know, auto wounds, the same thing, because that just feels gross. I can't wait to look at the Votan Codex, guys. I'm really excited. I know that it's busted and broken and all those other things, but I am very excited to see what's actually in the Votan Codex. Yeah, I doubt it. The only thing I'm really hoping for is that one of the sub-factions for the Space Marines is very clearly the Imperial Fists. I doubt it's going to happen, but it would make me happy if it did. Okay. Getting some more paint out, because now it's time for me to shade the armor. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm curious what they're going to do with the Primarchs. Both the Demon Primarchs and the Risen Primarchs. I definitely saw that what's his name? Auspex Tactics did a video where he talked about the lion and had the lion square up against a bunch of the other major characters, and he severely underperformed. The lion is apparently a terrible model for the point cost. Which, I mean, they're not meant to be super efficient models, otherwise they'd be must-includes in every army. But to hear that he got bodied by basically anyone that was of his stature was kind of distressing, I guess. I don't know. He couldn't hold a candle to Angron. He couldn't take on any of the Primarchs. Anything, I think, if its base was 50 or smaller, he was okay against or won. But anything bigger than that, he either struggled with mightily or he absolutely got obliterated by. And a huge part of that is because his defense actually isn't that great, even with the Emperor's own shield. But you know, it is what it is, I guess. Hopefully the Lion will get better in the new edition, but not become a world beater. Because I think that's been a thing, hasn't it? Like they've tried to balance the Primarchs and the big leaders like that, so they're fun and they're powerful, but not so much that they take over the game. Because like Gilliman was the same way, I thought. He's a fairly powerful model, but he's not an auto-include in an Ultramarines list. And for a while, Mortarion was so stinking powerful that he was an auto-include, and if you didn't take him, you were just making life much harder for yourself, and you basically didn't play him against friends because you wanted to have friends at the end of the day. But then everything else kind of powered up alongside him, and then Mortarion became a thing that you would take if you wanted to have fun, but he was definitely not something you wanted to include in a competitive list because he was too many points sunk in. I don't know. I like talking about the tournament stuff, I like talking about unit efficiency, but it's not something that I really play into very heavily because I prefer the narrative aspect of 40k. Something that I thought was really cool, I think I talked about this before, was watching a video from, I don't even remember their name and I feel bad for forgetting them, but they went to the narrative 40k event that happened in New Mexico a few months ago, and that's what it was. It was a narrative event. It was more important that your entire faction as a whole won based off of points they got via, I am way out of focus, via winning or scoring specific secondaries in their match. It didn't really matter if they, you know, won the match or not. It was more important that they completed the objective that was set for them. And I thought that was kind of a really cool feature and really encouraged, you know, more creative list building versus whatever's most efficient for the game. And so I'm more interested in that. That's the kind of thing I want to do. I want to be able to bring like a fully lore-based army to the table, and not have to worry about, oh, well, you should be bringing, you know, 5 Carnifexes and 3 Tyranid Warriors. I know I got those backwards, but you know what I mean. Being beholden to competitive lists just doesn't sound fun to me. So hopefully that is the case. Have you guys seen what they did to the Lion as a character in his books? Because that's something else that is starting to come out, and Twitter's having a field day with it because Twitter is full of hateful, mean-spirited people. But I like that every time I hear about, oh, this is how they introduce this problem or this character or reintroduce this thing, I've been wrong every time. Every prediction I've had or everything I thought was going to happen has been wrong on every occasion, and that makes me incredibly happy because it means that Games Workshop is keeping me on my toes. And I'm not so bought into the lore that you know, it has to go the way I think or else it doesn't make sense and you guys are doing it wrong. I enjoy seeing where they're going to take it. And so yeah, if you guys haven't heard what they did with the Lion, he apparently woke up next to a river or a stream or something with no idea how he got there, just knowing that he had to hunt. And he's gone around and tried to redeem the Fallen. Like, they're finally moving on with the Fallen storyline, and he's finding loyalists who were loyal to him and did not fall to chaos entirely, and he's redeeming them, and they're called the Risen now, which I think is the greatest stupid pun on the Fallen I've ever heard. But they're going around and hunting the traitor Fallen, like the ones that are chaos. And he also is very aware of like the mistakes he made and the pride and all the problems that caused, and is very regretful of it, but is also older. And so at least when he woke up in the novel by Mike Brooks, he was dealing with the fact that he was older and weaker because he didn't get to go into stasis like Gilliman did. He was pretty much, you know, I don't want to say conscious, but he was there the entire time. So the fact that that's where they went with him, was not expecting that, because if you know anything about the Horus Heresy, one of the biggest things about the Lion was he was a colossal tool. And it was because in his mind, he was always right. Like, that was his character thing, was his unshakable belief that he knew what he was doing, and if anyone disagreed with them, well, then you were just wrong, and you were defying what essentially amounted to Imperial doctrine, because I am the Emperor's arm out here. And so while he's not an indecisive, whimpering coward, he's definitely a changed man who realizes that, you know, the world is a different place, or the universe is a different place now.
And I think I managed to find my favorite nonsense combo from 7th that I played. Necrons with a single unit containing the following: Nemesor Zandrak, Oricon the Diviner, a bunch of Lich Guard with dispersion shields. That already scares me.
That seems like a lot of things to say, I'm going to delete something you have. And I'm assuming the dispersion shields were a really, really good defensive buff for that unit. Join Benry Paints as he painstakingly tries to darkline every one of the creases in this guy's armor, and does so poorly.
Not that poorly.
I'm very curious to see where this is going.
Oh, it's not so much the deletion as the tar pit.
Oh, so it just bogs down a unit?
They do get killy. So what did Nemesor Zandrak and
Oricon the Diviner bring to the party here? What did they bring to the table? Because like I said, I know the Lich Guard are what they sound like, and I'm assuming with the dispersion shields they become very sticky. But like, what did the two named characters bring to this combo to make it absolutely frustrating and stupid?
Lich Guard get 3-up invols.
Okay. I figured it was something awful like that.
Oricon gave +1 to reanimation protocols and reroll the ones on saves.
Oh boy. That's awful.
Yeah, so essentially what did Nemesor bring? I'm really excited for this now. So now you're a 3-up invul, rerolling ones with a 4-up reanimation protocol. So wow.
That thing is not going to die. You're gonna have to commit a lot of firepower to that mess. That's really impressive, and that's really cool. I love that kind of math hammer, but I can't mentally do it, you know what I mean? I can't commit myself to play a game where I have to constantly do that kind of math hammer. And I know that's a big part of Warhammer in general, but it's part of, like I keep saying, and I know at this point it's probably frustrating to hear and annoying, but it's part of why I went to one-page rules, because it's really hard to do that kind of stuff. There just aren't that many steps to the game balance for it to happen.
Zandrak gave a choice of a warlord trait plus a bunch of special rules for any units, if any units within 24 inches had them.
Good lord. So yeah, that sounds like it could get really bad for anyone who gets anywhere near this thing, depending on what happens to be around it at any given time, I guess. That's absolutely ridiculous, and not in a bad way. What is kind of in a bad way is my crippling inability to get this blend down right. Actually, have you heard of Bricky's The Candle? There's Adeptus Ridiculous is an American guy who does like a bunch of lore videos for the uninitiated with his friend DK, and he went to LVO and he brought his Las Vegas Open, and he brought his Sisters of Battle list with him, and he brought a specific unit that he nicknamed the Candle. Since we're talking about ridiculous wombo combo math hammer stuff. And yeah, that tar pit just feels like it belongs in a Death Guard list. I know that Death Guard can't do that stuff, but that feels like something that the Death Guard should have. It's just the ability to take like a unit and make it nigh unkillable and frustrating just for the enemy to have to deal with. Okay, this is almost so the best warlord trait gave you Zealot, which meant immunity to morale and reroll hits on the first round of combat. Wow. Yeah, so there was no way of this army actually scattering because you didn't have to roll for morale. Speaking of, have you seen the new rules for morale? I'm not sure how I feel about them. Or I guess they're technically combat attrition tests. I don't know if they're actually morale. They seem to have come up with a new name for them or something. But yeah, keep going. I've got to hear how you like tied all this together into some horrible mess. Like, I'm just waiting patiently for the punchline at this point. Okay, that's going to be ugly until I get a second crack at it. So hopefully this will read through. Nope, I just made that worse. Hopefully that will read through as a shadow once I finish blending that in. Back out with more yell. It's even better if the enemy had units with hit and run and counterattack, as you could potentially leave combat and recharge, then get +1 strength on the charge. Yeah, that just seems like a dumb idea for someone to come at you then. Either they get stuck in really badly, or if they try and get away, you're just going to make them pay by having an even better second attack on them. That does sound like an incredibly fun way to mess with a unit. Especially if you get lucky enough and you can, like, take out their high priority guy by getting him stuck in with that, and then I'm assuming crump on as much damage as you can via other things. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and hit most of this with like the lighter brown because I don't need that dark brown all the way out this far. And then we're gonna mix in some of this yellow brown that I've made, this like golden yellow brown, which is a really disgusting color the more they think about it, but we're gonna take that back even further. Try and get rid of most of that. You know, that's actually something that I don't think I've seen any art for, given all the terminology I just used. I don't know of any orc, orc Necron conflict. And the more I think about it, the more I believe that that's something I need to have in my life. Like, I know it exists. In The Infinite and the Divine, there was definitely a moment where, or was it, no, the Twice Dead King. There was definitely a moment where a bunch of orcs raided a tomb world, and the characters were disgusted at just how awful the orcs were in general as beings. So the more I think about it, the more I wish to see more of that kind of humor, or that kind of interaction happen. But yeah. I need to, one of these days, I need to, like, actually transcribe what Bricky said about the candle so I can play it for you guys, because the candle was stupid. But this is also coming from someone with very limited knowledge of 40k, and so it may have seemed ridiculous to me, and you guys will just probably hear it, some of you will probably hear it, just go, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like the kind of dumb shit you're supposed to do in 40k. Okay. I wonder, if I take this, push the dark line back even further. And I take this, which is the yellow-green, or the yellow-brown, not the yellow-green, and I wet that into the newly formed dark line. Yep, a little bit more. I'm practicing my blending, guys. I'm trying to learn new techniques. I'm trying to learn my own way to get some of the ridiculous results that I keep seeing these other painters get. And maybe I'm looking at it too hard, but I am still amazed at the kind of buttery smooth blends they get. And I think what I really need to do is I really just need to sit down and watch one of those like 40-minute videos of them, or, you know, even longer than that, multi-part videos of them just methodically working on a single unit or on a single detail, so I can figure out how on God's green earth they're able to get such amazing detail in their minis. Because it feels like everything I do just looks very amateurish and rough, which is understandable because I've only been doing this for so long. Have a good evening, Pilkey. Thanks for showing up. I do appreciate it, and I love seeing you here. You're a really cool dude, and appreciate the compliments. Have a good evening. Okay, I think, you know what, I can't be too mad at that. That turned out pretty okay. But yeah, I've got to learn the secrets of the masters, because my stuff is not up to where I want it to be. Which I also want to emphasize, guys, I'm not being too difficult on myself. I'm not being too critical, because something I want to emphasize is that I do know that my models are looking really good, and they're vastly improved from where I was even a few months ago, because of how often I go at it. They're just, I want them to be better. You know what I mean? I want to have better models. I want them to look nicer. And so I'm going to keep pushing myself. And I hope that if you guys have an interest in this stuff, you do too, because I think that's easily the most rewarding part of this hobby, is just getting to watch yourself improve over time as you personally get better at the thing you enjoy doing. Because it may seem like I'm kind of whining a little bit, but I am having the time of my life trying to figure this out. It's like a puzzle that I'm trying to solve, you know what I mean? And that's where the joy in this comes in for me. So that is what's kind of happening here, is me trying to figure out and solve the equation. How can I make this better? What can I do to try and emulate some of the things that the great painters are doing? How do I get similar results? And right now the answer has kind of been, make it up as you go along. Because that's honestly what I'm doing in a lot of these cases. Okay.
Something I can do actually for this guy is that now that this has more appropriately dried, I can kind of hit some more of it with a lighter brown to give some more color depth to the leather. And hopefully this will look okay. Hopefully I'm still on the freaking camera, because that has been my biggest problem today, is just I have no idea where the camera is at any given time. I'm so used to, because of how this was angled, I'm used to having to hang it over to the left side, and every time I look over, it just looks like I'm veering sharply off, like I'm some kind of drunk. But in actuality, it's just that I'm used to having to go this way to catch up with the camera and keep it aligned. But now I've got the camera almost dead center because I'm hanging it over my painting, my spray booth instead of around it, or off to the left of it, and that's making all the difference in terms of the angle. Okay. I think the only thing I can do for that next to make it go any brighter is to straight up get a white. So I'll do that some other time. Now, just gonna add a little bit more edge to that. Go up a little bit. There we go. And now, to hit one of the brightest spots, which is going to be right down here, we're just going to hit the entire thing all the way down. Something else I really could do is on the other side. I don't need to go that dark, so what I think I can do is I can use this brown, and probably where this is being hit, just kind of do that across the entire thing and stain it with this horrible, ugly coffee stain. And that way, I have an indicator to go off of, you know what I mean? It's not perfect by any means, but it at least gives me an idea where I need to go when I hit it with a cleaner shadow. Now, my understanding is this is called blocking. You're just kind of blocking in the colors, and then you'll go back later and you'll blend it in to make it look nicer. But right now, it does not need to look pretty. So I suppose I will find out if that's the case very shortly as I go back and I block in this lighter brown. Because for the life of me, I cannot see what's behind this shield right now. So to be honest, it doesn't look like much. Okay, so that brown went in, and now I'm going to grab some of the yellow again. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to blend the yellow into the brown that I just did, which should still be kind of wet. And this way, it's a much cleaner blend from that dark brown into more of a gradual yellow. And my understanding with this, which is very limited, is that when you do this kind of blending, you really want to pull the new color, the brighter color, out from the darker color. So I don't want to go back and forth with this, and I don't want to push the lighter color into the darker color. I want to start at the darker color and work my way out. And what that should do is it should mix the light color and the dark color enough so that you got a far more gradual transition between the two. And in general, if you've been watching this for any period of time, that's kind of what I've been doing this entire time. On like the back of the leg and everything, and on like the foot. That's kind of how I've been working, is I've been taking the lighter color as I move up the brightness scale, and I've been pulling it away from the darker color.
and hoping that that will create a convincing enough blend that when it dries, I can go back over it again with a thinner layer, and then it will create a much more gradual blend from light to dark. Or from dark to light, my apologies. But again, I only have a half a clue of what I'm doing, so hopefully this is all going to turn out okay. So we're going to do that. Yeah. The same idea there. I will say, the non-Games Workshop paints are definitely mixing better than the Games Workshop paints did. Baby, come on, baby. There we go. Okay, mix some of that in, and let's see if I can put that again in a way that will show up okay. Because if not, I'll just have to redo it again. Oh, that's all water. That was a bad. I made a bad, guys.
Don't make a bad.
Okay, let's get some more of that. Mix that in. Mix it a little more yellow. Okay, let's see. Can I do this? Let's flip you around and get you out from underneath that. Okay, the knee is not looking so great.
I'm gonna have to go back and redo the knee, I think.
But that's perfectly fine. All part of the learning process. I'm gonna blend across it a little bit with the darker color now. Try and see if I can get some nice balance between the light and the dark. And what might be happening, whoops, that's a huge gob of water. What might be happening is I'm going to start a contrast between the two colors too immediately. But I suppose we'll find out when this stuff dries. The outside part over here, the leg looks pretty darn good, so I don't think I'm going to fight that one a whole lot more. What I am going to do is fix an oopsie right there. And continue going lighter. So now we're going to go even lighter out here, which hopefully you can see by the color of that pool. And now I'm going to go even lighter up to the buff color, basically by itself. And I'm going to pull the buff color out at the very edge, because I feel like that's where the highlight would be. That's something else I kind of need to get better at, actually actively searching out, is looking up how light reacts and interacts with metals and different surfaces. Because again, I'm making this up. I have no clue how this stuff would actually interact. So probably having a better idea would help me a lot with this specific exercise. Do a little bit of an edge highlight there. Oh man, this one did not turn out good at all. Let's fix that. Let's add a little bit more stank in there. There we go. Same with on the foot. As I tried to explain it, I apparently didn't do a very good job with it. Mix some more of the buff with the yellow I'm using. Make a little bit of a reflection where it counts, or a bright spot where it counts. see how bright I can get this. Not particularly, that's fine. That's where my other highlight color will come into play, which I don't have out with me right now. Okay, we're gonna go overly dark under here, with the intention of bringing it back up further, right, the further up we go. That's a purple. I don't need a purple. Get some more brown on the palette. And let's go for a little while longer. I think after I finish this little bit, it'll be time for me to go, because it's a little bit after 6, which is about when I have dinner with my wife. Get a little bit of that yellow-brown mix. And again, my prints are done in 3 hours, just enough time to get some sleep. What you printing? I think you told me already. Is it the Casterkin proxies that you're going to be using? The shock troopers? I'm generally kind of a bum with that. Good luck, man. I hope they turn out great, and may all of your supports do their job, right? Usually when I have something like that, I don't know what time it is where you are, but whenever I have an issue like that where a print is going to take a while, and I want to go to bed, or I know I need to go to bed, I typically just let it run through the night. I mean, you've got the Saturn II as well, don't you? The 8K printer? If so, good on you, for one. And for two, what kind of resin are you using? You're going to try the Inquisition Troopers paint scheme? I don't know what that is. If you could provide a visual, I'd love to post it. Oh, wait, is that the, like the ones that they use in Darktide? Where it's basically, you have a 4K printer. I mean, for the size of your models, that's going to be perfect and beautiful. Is the Inquisition Troopers like the red and the black, like they have in Darktide? Because I remember, I was like, why are the guardsmen all wearing this one specific color scheme? Red and black. I thought so. So yeah, like in, I hate to use it as the example, but it's, again, my knowledge is fairly limited. In Darktide, that's what they did. They have it so that all of the troopers are wearing red and black, because they're all supposed to be working under an Inquisitor. So that definitely makes the most sense. Yeah, that's going to be a very striking, very, very, very cool. I need to play more of that game. I really like Darktide. I'm not very good at it. I'm about as good as someone who sucked at Halo in college could be. But I really like Darktide. I should play that some more. At some point, I'm going to play it on stream. I've got some friends that also have the game that want to play it. So hopefully, I'll be able to do some doofy shenanigans then. I don't know, do you, oh, you played a bunch of it today? Very cool. About to ask, do you play Darktide? What class do you go? What class do you run with? What's your favorite one? What's the one that brings you the most joy? Sharpshooter. Understandable. Are you good with the sharpshooter? Because I friggin' suck with the sharpshooter. I really like them, but I'm really, really, really bad with them. Don't know. Fair enough. I can't do anything above level 3 stages, because I think my highest ranked character is, your guess is okay? Well, that's absolutely fair. My highest ranked character is an Ogrin, and I think he's only at like level 28. My equipment's not that great. There's a lot of things going against me in my Darktide game, and it's mainly because I don't play it as much as I'd like to. It definitely is one of those games where I wish I had more time to play it. But unfortunately, I have other things that I want to do. One of which is this. I did a high-intensity 4 or 5. That was hella fun. Didn't shoot much there, though. Yeah, I mean, after a while, you kind of just got to pull out the melee weapon, right? Speaking of the melee weapons, is that not like one of the best thing Darktide does? Like, all of the weapons feel really good. The power sword especially, right? The power sword, it was mostly power sword action. So it was you pressing a stud and then, like,
Shredding guys, I bet.
easily one of the best feelings in that game is being able to just absolutely fillet people.
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't know. I think the power sword and the chain axe are two of the best feeling weapons in the game. I have yet to get the power maul with my zealot, but I am very excited for the day when that happens.
It's still great even after the nerf. How badly did they nerf it? Because I haven't been keeping up with Darktide at all either. A lot. Well, that's unfortunate. Because,
I don't know. I didn't realize it was so powerful to begin with. I don't like how that knee turned out. I think I'm gonna go back and futz around with this a little bit.
Sharpshooter was the strongest melee class on Really?
Like I said, I didn't play much of the game. One of my friends who played it, not a whole lot more than me, but they definitely got a better feel for it. Didn't have that to say, though. I don't think that they had much to say on it other than that the Psyker seems to outclass everyone in terms of, like, battlefield role, and I'm not sure how true that is, because it just felt like, you know, it killed elites, it did crowd control, it just there wasn't really a reason to take another class.
But he also didn't play on very high skill levels yet because neither of us were there.
So how the heck was the Sharpshooter the strongest melee class
At release.
Like, I believe you, but I don't know the numbers.
So,
The power sword, just the fact that the power sword is such a good weapon, I mean, that's completely understandable. Just based on how they describe it in the books, I really feel like the power sword gets a raw deal in almost every video game it's in. So it is kind of cool seeing that the power sword was such a good weapon in Darktide.
okay. Yeah, it was now.
So what just if you know, what is the best melee weapon in the game? What would you say? You don't know? That's fair. I don't know why, but I fell in love with the Ogren. I think it's because, as I said previously,
Not too good at video games.
and Ogren were very straightforward. If you were decent at holding point, then the Ogrens were pretty good for that.
I mean, that's also fair. Hopefully, they have the typical, or that Fat Shark manages to do like what they did with Vermintide, and eventually through tweaking it and messing with it and modifying it and adding to it, they managed to turn it into a Vermintide-esque game that has like deep support and a whole lot of stuff. And because that was my understanding, I didn't play Vermintide a lot, but I definitely heard that the game was good when it came out and then only got better as they continued to add things to it. Both Vermintide 1 and 2. So I'm just hoping and praying that Fat Shark is able to do the same thing with Darktide, because I know there was a lot of complaining about Darktide with, you know, the lack of a crafting system, the limited stuff to do once you got to like level 30. A whole bunch of stuff seemed to be missing from the game when it came out. I would make a second campaign with the Gene Stealers. That would be neat. They're definitely an enemy that deserves a whole lot more traction. Okay. I've been streaming for 2.5 hours now. I think it's about time for me to head on out. But before I do, let's do a quick spin around and see what kind of progress I got. I got his shoulders up to a fairly acceptable level. I'm going to clean them up a little later. Got him almost completely covered in his yellow armor. I'm working right now to try and get his armor to have the proper source lighting and shine on it. Oh, I forgot about his shoulder. Looks like his shoulder pooped. I'll get that fixed, but he's definitely starting to shape up.
starting to look like a pretty decent unit. So I'm going to go ahead and head out. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll talk to you guys later. Tomorrow's Friday, so I'm probably not going to stream tomorrow. I might stream Saturday or Sunday morning, no clue. But have a good rest of your day, guys. Thanks again for joining me, and later. Bye-bye.